looking clean, looking sexy, and here we are here to talk about some Serpent Queen, episode 6, The Last Joust, featuring, of course, our favorite cast, our favorite ensemble of characters, Catherine and Henri and all the Diane and all these other characters. And the first thing I want to ask you is, of course, what do you think? This is our question of the day. I want to know in the comment section, what do you think? Question of the day, what is Rahima's purpose in Catherine's plan? I want to know what do y'all think, because Catherine, as we have seen in this episode, is very intense. You know what I mean? She is wild. She have set up the dude who she probably loved, her Taylor, who she brought with her. She has set up her husband. Everyone is getting set up. Everything has been dealt with. Her uncle, everybody who betrayed her. Seems like a curse. Rahim at the end even said, "You are evil, and I need to repent." And she like, "Don't fake. We know how you are." And we ended on Rigiri back in present day. I didn't expect to see many people from present day. I mean, from the past and present day, but we got it. So this was an amazing episode. Catherine is out of this world. This is a great show. I love this show. Let's talk about the episode. I appreciate y'all. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the episode. We see a golden looking Diane. She's staring at Catherine. She's pure gold. Catherine pushes her down and she falls off the edge of the palace. We also see her husband. She's laying down, blood coming from his eyes, and it comes and it's like a snake bitten sound comes, and it looks like he bit her, like she was bitten, right? And the first thought I had, she's predicting another death, and this time it's Henri, the man she loves. She is literally predicting his death at the beginning of the episode. And I was so curious about it. Like, how is this going to tie in? Is she going to actually do something to her husband? Because we have already got in our mind that Catherine is this person who, for some reason, if things go not her way, she will sell you out. But at the same time, we know she actually loves Henri. So this scene sets up a great story for the whole entire episode. Catherine then tells Harima that she can't help her after she got called, after she sent her to do something. Again, we go back to the question of the day. She sent her to steal something from Mary's room, but then she told the girl to go back. Rahima doesn't even know this part. We as the audience know, but we don't even know, like, what is her plan and why is she visiting her? She's being nice to her again. What is the game plan Catherine has for Mary and Rahima, and what is connected, and why does she set her up? What is going on? That's my first thought about this episode. What is, because now it's like a mystery thriller for the fans, and I absolutely enjoy that. We next thing we see Angelica and Diane eating gold, basically painted. By the way, Diane body looks amazing. Shout out to her, the actress, the character, amazing looking body. But she's painted. You see Angelica eating gold now. She made her eat gold in the last episode. They both acting a little zany and a little crazy, a little desperate, a little uncouth. We know Diane early in the season was kind of like Catherine in the way she maneuvered, cunning. Now she's more outright, and she doesn't even care that people know that it's a game. It's not even like hidden anymore. She just goes out and does whatever. So you see her do that. We see Catherine goes find her magician from the first episode where Gary, constant theme of the show. We even see him at the end now, but we're gonna get to that at the end. We're gonna ask some questions. He brings up that everything has a price. He said if Diane dies, of course Henri has to die, and Catherine tells him she is not prepared for that price. Again, this episode is showing what is she willing to do? What is she willing to give up? What price is she willing to pay? And all these women in this show are willing to do whatever. They are willing to go all out. They want influence. At least Diane and Mary, all of them actually starting to admit it. Catherine is probably the last person to admit it because she's actually in love with the guy in power. But this gets really interesting because even in this situation, she was like, no. We see Antoinette D. Geist is conspiring for Mary, her niece, to take over and gain control, using her uncles as they use Diane. Mary is mad weird. She's a zealot. She's one of them people that don't go out and don't see the world. Like I don't know, have y'all ever met like people that's like in a religious group that ain't never really experienced nothing but what they're told, and they're like weirdly zealots, but they're kind of crazy because they have like no life experience. They're literally dangerous people because they have no life experience. But they do learn tricks from like their parents to manipulate and do other things. So she knows how to control and manipulate. It's just in a interesting place. True. The last episode, Tatsuki wins. Shout out to Tatsuki Gaming. Tatsuki is he's an alpha man. I appreciate you, my guy. Tatsuki is amazing. We gotta play games sometime, my guy. We gotta play games. But they are playing the game, and you can even see Diane hates Francois. While Charles is talking his talk, trying to be convinced, he's not really convincing. Diane knows what he wants. She basically be like, listen, I don't even like your brother. He kind of ruined my relationship by taking credit over my plan, because my plan was for Henri to be safe and not go to the front line and be smart, whereas he went to Francois and Francois gets credit. So I kind of don't like you. I don't like you, which lowered the standard between the relationship between Henri and Diane. Of course, it lowered it, but we see that they offer her an amazing. Yes, I actually would. Have you ever heard of this Tatsuki speaking? I'm going to watch the show. You have made it sound good. Would you recommend it? I would. I don't know if you ever heard of the old Queen of France, the longest reigning Queen of France, Catherine. It's based on a true story, by the way. They're also called her like the Empress of like death or something, because everybody around her died. Her uncle was the Pope. So when the Pope got killed, her mother, all of them, they're royalty. So she grew up as a commoner, but she's not really a commoner. It's an amazing story. I would recommend. You know what I mean? I would recommend. It's actually very interesting, especially since it's based on a real woman and a real story. It's like based off her story that she told in her books. I would 100% recommend this story. Diane says she hates church bells because, of course, it means somebody's getting married or they end up dying and either way, someone is losing their soul. We can tell how Diane feels about marriage in this episode. They are having a meeting. Henri is drinking a lot. Diane comes in and wishes Francis II to marry. Of course, they offered her a tax that gives her money. They are offering her a tax that will ultimately give her money and make her very wealthy and influential, even after the king passes away, and that no one would ever be able to touch her if Mary's in charge. So of course she decides she's going to do it, and she said it's a done deal, and goes on. And Henri basically says, "No, it's not." Diane said, "This is what I want," and Henri said he doesn't care. He throws a cup and breaks it against the wall. Real dramatic. He's an alcoholic. Alcoholics sometimes get dramatic. And he said, and she was like, when will that happen? And she's like a pouty girl. She doesn't even have influence or power. The only power she got is if Henri actually give it to her. So Diane is, for Tatsuki and other people watching who might not know and want to get interested in this show, she is Catherine's cousin. Catherine is the queen of France right now. Her husband is Henri. That's what we talking about. Just so people who came in and don't know. I know I got some friends that want to support me that might not know and want to watch the show. He said what happened when he's good and ready. Diane has ruined this man's confidence. He literally hates her, but he can't get enough of her because she has been molding him since he was young. And we're going to go over that in a minute. We're going to go over why that's important. Henri acknowledges Diane, doesn't love him to Catherine, and has led him around like a stray dog since he was a youth. She got him when he was young, and he doesn't want his son Francis II to be like this. He doesn't want Francis II to be led by women their whole life. We're going to break that down a little bit. Catherine is now working with Henri to foil Diane's plans, and she offers to get Montmorency back. This dude is literally one of the smartest people, and they take him so for granted. We're going to talk about him again. Catherine comes in to the Protestant members of the council that control the fund, and she has a royal decree for entertainment purposes. If you're in a wedding, you don't get If it's for a wedding or anything entertainment purpose, you can't get funds and you got to use your own money. You can't use this for your entertainment purposes, parties, etc. You can't do it. Catherine came up with this plan. The Bourbons, of course, the big brother Bourbon is essentially like, I might have found a friend in you. He goes whichever way seems to be winning. My man is not loyal to anybody. And sometimes you kind of need to know which way he's going. You probably need a guy like that because you can tell as a business owner or a person who's leading something, you kind of need that dude that plays two sides, but you have to acknowledge that he plays two sides. Because if he plays two sides, you can actually know which side everybody's else on, and if somebody trying to manipulate a situation. Like if he's too far on this side, like okay, somebody's got some that he's manipulating. He feel like that side is winning. Why? And I can organize as a leader what to do. But my guy Bourbon is here. He is playing both sides. You will see later on. Mary also then talks with Catherine. She said Gaza flicks her favorite as Catherine describes Francis stuttering. Catherine warns her that she might be a political pawn, that her son might not be able to have children, and this could lead to her being a queen without any power. A queen without influence, and that she would be basically kicked off if she doesn't do her role right. And if she doesn't have a children, just like in her situation, this also bringing back to episode 2 that if she didn't have a child, that the king would marry someone else or something like that, and that she would have no power and she would just be a marryless queen who just in position. Well, at that point, I think a duchess or princess without any like real power. So she brings that up to her because like right at this point, she doesn't have another child. We see Ibis. She is speaking to a young man. I mean, and Angelica comes in. Angelica's of course losing her mind. She tried to give her a golden apple. By the way, I love that imagery. The golden apple imagery from the initial story of like eating the red apple, but this time it's a golden apple. Of course, Avis didn't eat it, and she thinks she's losing her mind, and she thinks she is a dominant person. Tasuki says, shout out to my guy Tasuki. He says, no earlier than the woman who produced the air would gain power. True, that's how it happened back in the day. So she convinced her of that. And that's the rules of back in the day. Diane is yelling at the Bourbons. I love these, like I said, I love these backstabbers because they even agree with her. Like the king made this decree. I don't know what you want us to do. Even though they do not want the emperor, because of course they're Protestant, they don't want the emperor to take over. They don't want the Holy Roman Emperor and their influence over because they are Protestant and they're kind of serving England in a way. So they don't want it completely. And it would lead to war, which we got to talk about shortly. Mary cries to Diane saying she doesn't want to marry Francis since what, of course, Catherine tells her, and saying she can't be with a man that can't bear children. Diane then goes into Catherine's room and threatens her for crossing her. It's a weird conversation where basically she tells her that Henri would be a better man with you, and he would actually probably be more of a man, and that everything would be good in his life. But Henri doesn't want that. He wants to be a drunk. He wants to be this weak king who does whatever women tells him, because he even does what you tell him. So why do you care? And she's like, you actually love him. This kind of hurt me that she said you actually love him, and calls her silly for it, and says, I don't love him. He just does what I want so I can have some semblance of power in a world ruled by men, and that she can carry him on like a dog, basically. She then went on and speaks to Henri. Henri says, you kept me as a boy to suit your needs. Diane is the ultimate gaslighter. She is gaslighting this dude through this whole scene, telling him that you didn't want to grow up. You always wanted to be a boy. Which leads me to a concept I'm going to say later on, and I'm going to talk about it. By the way, remember the question of the day, and remember to also like and subscribe if you enjoy the comment. But this is the question of the day. What is Rahima's purpose in Catherine? Rahima's purpose and Catherine's plan. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So let me know, what do you think is the plan? Because right now I haven't formed a clue, and we almost do. I think I have a better clue in episode 7. So if you watch the show, you can comment later on this week or you can comment right now or whenever you're on the show and tell me your thoughts. And if I don't get nothing during the show, I'll read your thoughts at the beginning of the episode next week on our review. We see that Henri is a weaker man because he starts to fold after she starts saying those sweet words she would tell him as a child. She's manipulative. She's telling him like these same sweet Christian lines from the Bible. She tells these things to basically warm him up because I'm assuming that something bad happened. I'm gonna go over in a minute. I don't want to go too far ahead of myself, but she is explaining to him that what the Bible says, and it comforts him in a way. And my first thought was, we have King Viserys in the House of the Dragon and he is way worse and way wicked than King Viserys. King Viserys would sacrifice everything for family. King Henri would sacrifice his family just to be tucked in with some woman who told him things. But I think it's a deeper meaning to it. So we're going to go over that later on. We're going to go over that shortly. We see that he decides that they're going to do a wedding. They're having another board meeting. He calls it. They're going to have a wedding. The Bourbon said, you will start a war with England if you do this, because you are basically siding with the Holy Roman Empire, which will be an act of basically at this time that you're saying you chose that side, and that there'll probably be a holy war, and that France has chosen a side. But at this point, England, if you know about history, had a monstrous navy. They had a monstrous navy at this point. And ultimately, this point happens to be, I forget what year it was. But if you know history, the British Navy was known as one of the greatest military operations there ever was. And people are worried about it. And he tells them this stupid. They say, Catherine, help us explain to Henri why it's a bad thing. Catherine, of course, said, as my husband wishes, I wish the couple well. Francis II, her son, is of course smiling. By the way, he looks just like his uncle. He looks exactly like his uncle. It's like you find two people from the same exact family, and he looks exactly like his uncle from the earlier episode. She says congratulations. Of course, she then goes to Rhaenyra again, saying that her husband is a weak man, and that she thought Diane was her problem, but her husband was really her problem because he was so weak and would always fall for her traps, when in reality, Diane is just some woman that is there. She's basically one of them women that sleep with the king. She's a concubine with too much power. That's basically what she was, and everybody knew it, by the way. We all know it. We all knew she was like just a concubine who he have there, and he has another one too that sits in like another place, but they don't really have influence. They have a child together, and he would probably be one of the children that could be in charge too. But it's like a lineage thing where it's all the main house children have to go first, and then he would get the power. But they're like in some villa somewhere looking nice. The Holy Roman Emperor Charles shows up and tries to suck up to everybody. The typical rich people thing when they go, you're beautiful, you're amazing, you are stupendous, you look amazing. I have heard about your cunning from far away, and it is simply amazing. Your beauty matches and all that stuff. Mary looks at him very interestingly. Of course, like I said, she's a religious zealot, and if you know anybody about culty people, the leader of the cult usually can do whatever he wants to the people, unfortunately. So I'm not sure if that was happening, but it is something that we can see in the future. One of my questions I wrote was Mary gonna cheat on this man? Then the second question I was asked, what did Charles, the Holy Emperor, the Roman Emperor Charles, do to Henri and his brother Francois? I should say Francois, not Francis. Francois. He said Henri was always a weird one, as he didn't want to play on my lap like his brother. Basically his knee. He said he didn't like to jump up and down on my knee, but his brother did. And I'm like, again, it sounds really creepy. I think his name is Charles. The Holy Emperor's name is Charles. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong on that. If his name is not Charles, because they really haven't really said his name, but I think it's Charles during this period. I could be wrong. I'm going off my history knowledge, and it's been a long time since I studied this period. So Y'all just let me know in the comments if it was a Holy Roman Emperor Charles at this point. He tells we see that Henri calls his son into his room and told him not to be ruled by women, and that he should think for himself. He should be his own man. He should be his own powerful man, and not be, as I say, ruled by the women of his life, whether it's to a lesser extent, Catherine, or to a more extent, Diane, who would basically force him to do whatever she wanted to do on a whim or whatever. And then when she didn't care, she just did whatever she did and bathed in gold and drank gold because she's a strange lady. He tells his son disses him and said, "You've been ruled by Diane since I was born, and I'm going to serve my wife Mary, and whatever she wants, she gets." Remember the question of the day? Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. I want to keep bringing up the question today because I want to know y'all thoughts. I want to get y'all influence on this. And the one thing I came after this is, you see, beta male behavior has been going on for way longer than y'all think. This man basically said he's the king and he's going to just serve his wife, which to a certain extent, nothing wrong with serving your wife. But to the extent where she tells you how to be king and what to do, when they have no idea what they're doing, when Catherine is actually way better, but you have this woman who just goes out and does whatever she wants on a whim to get more money and knowledge, it becomes a bad thing. And the next thing I thought was Montessori back. My boy is back. He tells Henri the truth. He calls him a fool. He said, "You are more of a fool than your father ever thought you were." This hits Henri hard. Henri is upset. He tells Montessori to basically go back to where you came from and never come back, and he's gonna forgive him because he knew him since he was a child, and that he was his father's right hand man. And he says, "For that I will forgive you, but go away." All Montessori did was tell him the truth. "Listen, you're gonna start a war because some woman told you to, and you fought this man as a king. He did some things to you that we don't even speak about, yet you're gonna still go back to him and suck up. And you're gonna risk a war just because of what? Somebody want a few more tax dollars?" Mama Sarah tells him the truth. We see Diane bathing glove, and of course, again, her body looks amazing, but she is crazy. We see Henri come and apologize for not heeding Diane's word, and she said, "Why does he need to apologize?" He basically, that's what she said. He's his own man, and you made a decision. I'm not upset, but will you joust for me and wear her colors? Remember earlier in the episode, I didn't bring this up because I want to bring this up now. It could be John the 8th. It could be. I'm going to actually look that up as we speak, as we doing this. And basically, we're saying Henri, he comes and apologizes. Said what? And she said, "Why do you need to apologize? Tell him to wear color." Remember, she told Ruggieri early in the episode, everyone. Remember, she told Ruggieri that she saw Henri wearing her colors when he was passing her drink. There's a Holy Roman Empire. Catherine. We're gonna look this up as we go. I do apologize for that. But remember too, of course, like and subscribe if you have time to, as we look that up. And the first thing I thought about when we was going over this was, is she gonna give up her husband who she loved? Is she gonna really give up the husband in which we could say claim love, but at the end of the day, she's gonna sacrifice him? She knew it. She could warn him, even if it was meant to happen anyway. But she actually even told him to go do the joust. She told him to do the joust. Like if you tell me to joust and you knew it already, you are a bad person. So I have another question before you that I wanted that's gonna be up the whole time. Was Catherine wrong for Henri? Because we know what happens. They are having a joust. He told Francois to not interfere. I'ma do the joust. They joust. She tells her attendant to tell her husband that to don't do it because she had a dream he passed away. The servant runs to him. She's not in time. Of course, it happens the same way. An accident happened. He passes away. We go in modern time and we see Rahima say that Catherine is an evil person. Everybody around here, and Catherine tells her that accidents happen. Rahima tells her that accidents seem to happen a lot around you, more than anyone else. So I don't know. What are you talking about? Catherine stands up, says, "You are just like me, and I want you to understand this." She's like, "I'm not like you." She said, "You stole from me. Not only that, you did multiple things. You lied to me. You stole me. You maimed one of your co-workers. You think I tell you to do any of that thing? Or did you come to me with your problems and I gave you a solution? Are you not like me? You just don't have the access or the knowledge to do it yet. I'm just showing you the way." She then tells the people to cut her rations in half. And then we goes in the future when we see where Gary asks if Catherine has picked the right girl, and he wants to make sure that Mary is not the Queen of France, and Rahima is very important to this. Which leads to our last question, but I also want to get this question to you. I gave y'all some time to look at it and answer. Was Catherine wrong for Henri? Yes, that's her husband. No, she prevented a war. I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I say no, she wasn't wrong. The man was about to cause a war, and he was not smart enough or strong enough to handle what he was about to cause over because some woman who bathed in gold and is kind of psycho, which y'all saw in the last episode, killed a man just out of psychotic breakdown, and he just decides to do what he wants. This man gotta go. You know what I mean? He gotta go. Remember the question of the day before we get out of here? Remember the question of the day. What is Rahima's purpose and Catherine's plan? I got another podcast to do, Power Raising Canaan, Season 2, Episode 9, the penultimate episode. Words. I appreciate y'all. Remember again to answer this question, and we're going to go over it next week. When y'all put in comments, I can put some of your comments up, and then I'll talk about it next week's show. Live again at 7:30 Eastern. We will be again, or maybe 7 o'clock. I'll make it 7 o'clock. We'll be 7 o'clock Eastern next week instead of 7:30, which we've been. I'll make it 7 o'clock, and we will again go over this incredible show with Queen Serpent. It's been amazing. Remember, answer the question. The first thing we'll do, we'll go over your questions. I'll do the intro, go over your questions. Then we'll get into the show for next week and add some more questions for the next week. And of course, we're going to start doing it this way. I appreciate y'all. Time to get in power. If you're interested in power, I know people that watch Stars. It's Star shows back to back. We will do that show shortly, right after this. Give me 5-10 minutes. And then we'll do, of course, I will have the gang with me, and we will do House of Dragons tonight at 11 Eastern. 2 hours after it come out. We will do a review live. I'll have the people with me, and we'll do it at 11 Eastern right on this channel. I appreciate y'all. Peace.